All right, welcome to EQ Checkout. I'm going to give you a brief overview of what it is and how it works. Starting here at the home page, we can see EQ Checkout. It's a equipment checkout and reservation system. It was designed for schools and universities, but really it can be used in any kind of organization that checks out equipment. I think the best way to understand it is just to dive in and give it a try. So we'll click Try It, and I'm going to enter some fictional information just for demonstration purposes. A cell phone is required, and that's because EQ Checkout is able to send out text messages with overdue reminders and things like that. Now this last field, the subdomain, this is going to let you create a custom website address for your EQ Checkout. And so you want to create something that will make sense for your organization, because this is where you will come to log in, and this is also where all of your users you'll send them here to make reservations. So that's it. Set it up. And it tells us here is our new website address. And we can click here to log in. Takes us to that website. We enter our login. And we're in. And the first thing it tells us is that this feels like a new account, because it is. So what we're going to want to do is create some inventory items. We can do that by clicking here. But you probably already have a room full of equipment. We could create them one by one individually here, but it might be easier to use this feature, which will let you import a whole bunch of items from a spreadsheet. You can download a spreadsheet here and then fill it out with your items and then upload it. Now, as far as users go, you can create users here, but you probably don't want to have to create all your users. The better way to do this is to just send your users to that website address that you created, and they'll create their own accounts. And then you, as an administrator, you'll have the ability to approve those users. So I'm going to pause here and enter a whole bunch of data so we have something to work with. Okay, now I've created some users and some items, some inventory. And before I log in with my administrator account, and by the way, you can create multiple administrators for your setup if you want. But before we log in as an administrator, I want to show you what it looks like when a regular user logs in to reserve something. So I've set up this user. We'll log in, and we can see they've already have this reservation from August 15th to August 19th. They can also, on the right panel over here, they can make another reservation, and they can also view your office hours. And we'll talk more about office hours in a minute when we log in as an administrator, and you can set up preferences to change those, but they're important because they determine the times, the dates and times that are available for people to pick up and return items. Okay, so for now, let's create a new reservation from, say, September 9th to September 15th. We can choose our times. Notice that the times are restricted to those office hours. We'll click Next. And what we see is a reservation page. It shows the date and time for pickup and return. Right now, no items have been reserved. To reserve items, we come over here and we choose a category of items. And so if we wanted to check out a video camera, we would click here and we would see what's available. And what we can see here is there's an HD camera kit, but it's not available. And that's because someone else already has it reserved from September 7th to September 12th, and that would conflict with our reservation. We can also click and see what's inside for these packages. I'll talk more about organizing items into packages and categories later when we log in as an administrator. But for now, I'm going to click to reserve this HD camera kit, and we see over here it reserved that package that includes those 4 items. And maybe we also want to get some lighting. So we'll reserve an LED light, and maybe we need some audio stuff. Let's get a zoom and an XLR cable and a wireless lav and a shotgun mic and a boom pole. Okay, so when we're done with that, those are all reserved pending review by an administrator, and that's probably you. So they do have those items reserved, but you're going to have a chance to approve that reservation. So let's click Finished, back to home. We can see now there was that original reservation that was already there, and now there's this additional one that we just made. So let's log out, and let's log back in using an administrator account. Okay, this is what you see as an administrator when you log in. On the left, in the main panel here, you see a schedule of everything that's happening, all the pickups and returns, the dates and times, and who is coming. And you can easily click and look at the details of those reservations. You also notice here at the top in yellow, you'll see any things that are a little more urgent. For example, someone who maybe has some overdue items that they should have returned but they haven't, or reservations that are in need of approval. And we can see that there are 12, and we can approve those easily by just clicking. We can look at them, and we can just approve all of them right here. Or maybe if we wanted to look at the details, we could click in to look at that reservation a little more closely, and then we could approve some of them by clicking this checkbox. Maybe we don't want to approve certain items, and we could leave them unapproved or cancel them. But usually you'll just approve all of the items. So now they're all approved. Let's go back to our home page. I want to talk a little bit about items. So I'm going to click here on items, and what you can see is all the items in your inventory. At the top are listed item packages. You can organize items into packages, which are just really groups of items that can be reserved with one click. And you can also organize items into categories. So if we click categories, we can see these are the categories that I've set up. And there are a few items that are still uncategorized. We could create a new category for those items if we wanted, or we could just leave them uncategorized. If we click back to items, we've only set up 2 packages. We can click and you can see it's easy to add items to a package or remove them. We can also see when we click on the items that it gives us the status of these various items, if they're checked out, if they're overdue. And if you click these little badges, it will take you to the reservation where it's included. I just wanted to mention that it's very easy to contact any of your users. You can send them an email. You can also send them a text message straight from this application, or you can click to view their user details, which will include their address and phone number and all that stuff. Okay, so coming back, users, we have a similar thing where we can see a list of users, and then we have these little badges that indicate Does this user have any items reserved, checked out, overdue? And we can see that Becky Smith has 3 items that are overdue. And again, we could click on any of these things to view the details of that reservation. Also in the users area, we have something called roles and restrictions. And I'm not going to go into a lot of detail right now, but basically this lets you organize your users into groups, because sometimes you might have a group of users that are not allowed to reserve everything in your inventory. Maybe they're only allowed to reserve certain items, and other users can reserve other items. So it's very easy to add roles. For example, we could create a role called Advanced Video Student. And maybe these are students who have been trained in some of your nicer HD cameras or something, and you could then add users to that role, and you could set up kind of the rules and restrictions. By default, a new role will allow them to check out everything and anything, but we could easily say no, we just want them to be able to check out these things. And there's a little bit more to understanding how these roles and restrictions work, and I'll either make another video or write up a tutorial to explain that. For now, I just kind of wanted to give you a little overview of it. The last main section here is your preferences. The preferences let you set up your office hours, and as I mentioned before, these office hours, they allow you to restrict when users can pick up and return items. So when they're making a reservation, it will restrict their dates and times to the office hours that you set up here. As an administrator, you're able to override those kinds of things. So if someone comes in, or if they've made a reservation and you want to extend things, or maybe you're willing to come in after office hours, you can always override those things. Also in the preferences, you have the ability to set up text reminders, time zone, which is important that you set up the right time zone, and a few other things like a maximum reservation length, and that would limit users. It wouldn't allow them to make a reservation that was longer than 10 days in this case. You can also set up a home message. I'll show you what that looks like. This is just a message that will show up whenever a user logs in on their home page. So let's say, remember that we will be screening final projects on the 27th. Please bring back all equipment before then. When we set up a home message, what that does is when a user logs in, they'll see a little post-it note. So that's the basics of EQ Checkout. Feel free to use this link here. If you have any questions, that'll send me an email, and I'm happy to answer any questions. And thanks for watching.